Kalangala, a necklace of 64 lush islands weaving around Lake Victoria, Africa's largest freshwater body, is a jewel in the crown for tourists. Today, access to the islands is much easier than 10 years ago, thanks in part to improvement in telecommunications, the scramble for land to erect tourism lodges, and largely to the palm growing project. The project was midwifed by government and the UN's International Fund for Agricultural Development in the mid-1990s. Livelihoods of the islanders are much better today than 10 years ago when Kalangala, according to a UNDP Human Development Index, was ranked among the poorest districts in the country. According to the 2014 national census, Kalangala had one of the smallest populations of 53,406 persons against the national headcount, now inching towards 45 million. The palm growing project was part of the vegetable oil development project to address rural poverty by involving smallholder farmers in vegetable oil crops production. The project eventually kicked off in April 2003 when the government signed a memorandum of understanding with BIDICO. But with an ailing road network and inadequate water transport, the Finance Ministry technocrats pitched a project to ignite the engines of growth at the remote islands. This is when Infraco Africa, a multi-government funded and privately managed company providing early-stage development, capital and expertise to develop infrastructure, materialized and entered into an understanding with government in 2005. This understanding gave birth to a special purpose vehicle called Kalangala Infrastructure Services, or KIS, to develop, expand and maintain key infrastructure services on Bugala, the main island. Keith Muhakanizi, the secretary to the Treasury who steered the project, told NTV that Infraco offered financing that was too good to turn away.
And we were stuck, we didn't have money. So a company called Infraco came, which is a company owned by donors, by the way, and said, okay, we can do this in partnership with you, but because we are owned by donors, we can also get you a grant. I said, perfect.
Today, government, through Uganda Development Corporation, has a 46% stake in KIS. Other equity stakeholders are Infraco Africa Limited, with debt and equity financing from Nedbank from South Africa, Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund. KIS effectively commenced operations in 2011.
To my best of my knowledge, Kalangala, we did one of the best projects on solar, and you can go there and see. So I don't know, that one is ongoing, got finished. We also did water, mainly using the grants in that area. But then we also to work as one, because we had to try to bring down the impact of the interest rate of the loan terms, to bring them down, which was branded with grant. There was another form of grant, which most of you don't know how it works. That is what we call a guarantee, which we got from USAID.
The total project investment is estimated at $50 million, about shillings 181 billion, for which government was required to pay in advance the annual and quarterly support payments to KIS for upgrading the road and ferry services, first through the Uganda National Roads Authority between 2012 and 2017, and through Ministry of Works starting in 2018. Officials claim KIS was designed as a public-private partnership to achieve the economies of scale necessary to attain project finance, operate efficiently, and serve the island residents with improved access to safe water, safe transportation, and more reliable solar-powered electricity. But over the years, concerns have been raised about the efficiency of the project. In a value-for-money audit of the project submitted to Parliament early this year, the Auditor General, John Muwanga, revealed that the idea of KIS was merely based on Infraco's research market analysis and development plan, and government did not undertake its own independent needs assessment to evaluate the best possible service delivery options as a basis for the investment decision. The audit noted that KIS was directly sourced by the Ministry of Finance without consideration of alternative providers to compare the costs and benefits and establish the best option as required by the procurement regulations. Muwanga observed that the Finance Ministry couldn't say with certainty whether the infrastructure investment option chosen for Kalangala is the most economical, efficient and effective for both government and the islanders. But Mahakanizi disagrees with the audit findings.
The auditors saying, because that's the only way you can come to have an audit query. Are they saying that the services which were to be paid for are not being given? If that is the case, then I agree with the auditors. If that is the case, then works should answer. To my best of my knowledge, the agreements were properly done.
One of the KIS's undertakings was to upgrade the main 66-kilometer Luku-Kalangala-Mlabana road, which was completed in March 2016, for which government paid shillings 40.16 billion in form of road support payments. However, government committed to paying an additional shillings 120 billion as road support payments over a 13-year period from 2016, which the audit considered too costly, considering that KIS is not responsible for road maintenance. Today, the same road is in a bad shape and is already disintegrating. The worst part is a 30-kilometer stretch between Bugoma and Boya villages. The Uganda National Roads Authority says it has no dealings, KIS and any ties were with the old management, which was restructured in 2015.
Urura is wrong. When I live here, the new permanent secretary cannot say that is the old arrangement. Can you? Must see if you live, if you live NTV, can somebody who comes after you say that was odd? I think that's wrong.
KIS Managing Director said they did their part, and as far as they know, the road is now a responsibility of the central government.
It would not be correct for anybody to say that the arrangement we had was with the old UNRA, and now therefore there should be a new arrangement. There can only be a new arrangement if there is an amendment in the agreements. But for as long as the agreements, the set of agreements are still the same, they haven't changed, then you can't talk about KIS having dealt with the old UNRA. The government of Uganda is still bound by those agreements.
Opondo further told NTV that they have delivered on what was agreed in the agreement. He also defended the 40 billion shillings paid for the road, which included acquiring its right-of-way and ferry services.
It's important to bear in mind that what the government of Uganda pays for is not simply the upgrade of the road. The government of Uganda, within that amount that it pays quarterly, inclusive are the ferry landings, both on Bukakata and on the Luku side. You may not be aware, but with the recent rise in the Lake Victoria water level, it's only those two landings that remained in operation. All the others were closed off. Up to now, you cannot use a vessel from Entebbe to Kalangala because the landing is non-existent following the rise in the water level.
According to the audit, the two ferries under KIS operating at Bukakata and Luku Islands with their capacity of 206 passengers are fully operational. However, KIS has not paid government the annual license and ferry operating fees amounting to $275,000 or shillings 1 billion, and the agreement does not provide for penalties for delayed payment of annual ferry operating fees. According to the audit, government has paid KIS shillings 16 billion more in mischargings for the ferry operation in the first 6 years of the ferry operations and another shillings 871 million in respect of deemed trips arising from 308 non-performed trips in 2017 alone.
His intention was to actually charge users for use of the vessels. And along the way, the government came in and took over the responsibility to pay for the users. Now, under the original arrangement, the government of Uganda had offered a license which required KIS to pay $25,000 per year per vessel for exclusive use of that route. However, once the government came in, the exclusivity was removed. And alongside the exclusivity should have been the $25,000. Unfortunately, in the amendment of the agreement, that was missed out.
We had to redesign the project, as the cabinet had done, by what we call economists call, try to put up shadow prices. In other words, what they would have paid over the period to pay back the loans and whatever, this time to be paid by road tolls and ferry tolls were to be, now government said we shall pay for it.
Separately, KIS was supposed to extend water services to Kalangala Island, but it is only accessible to 16% of the residents. Electricity access is another sticky issue in the audit query. The company constructed a solar plant with a capacity of 1.6 megawatts per hour with transmission and distribution lines serving the major settlements of Bugala, but there is a challenge of low utilization as the maximum load attained during the period under review was 0.4 megawatts per hour, putting average utilization capacity below 25% of installed capacity. Residents say the power is too expensive, while the water is sometimes unusable.
The power, it is that costly, and water also, because though this source is there, but still people are still carrying their jerry cans, they are still sending their children to far places.
Amasanyalaze ebbeeyi yaago eri waggulu nnyo.
Kino Kalangala Infrastructure Services kisiwe kyajja. Tukifunyeemu sijagamba tukifunyeemu naye nze ndaba kitandise okunafuwa.
The audit reveals that when it comes to oversight, no government agency is playing the role, whereas KIS had designated consulting agency Mott MacDonald's as its independent monitor. The implementing agreement signed in 2009 provided for establishment of an oversight committee, which is not in place yet. Owing to the poor oversight, the audit detailed that government had made erroneous payments to KIS amounting to shillings 13 billion as a result of application of wrong base factors and shillings 564 million due to application of wrong consumer price indices. In addition, government did not recover shillings 686 million, resulting from a decrease in the cost of operating ferry services. Muhakenizi said, as far as government is concerned, the project is efficient and the auditors missed the bigger picture.
Today, Kalangala is the main island, not the smaller districts. The smaller islands is one of the richest outside Kampala districts, if not the richest. Are you aware? So, I would want to understand when they say cost benefit. Now we have, they didn't have electricity, they have electricity. They have water, safe water. Now, so.
To ensure proper implementation of the project, Mwanga recommended that government through the Finance Ministry invokes the renegotiation clause such that KIS services are offered at reasonable costs.
There are good reasons when you want to renegotiate the agreement that probably may not have been overseen at that particular point. So it's welcome. We want to look at it. I always say I want to interrogate what are the reasons and then we move forward.
Kalangala is much better and accessible today than it was a decade ago, thanks in part to the services offered through the ongoing PPP deal. But going by the Auditor General's report, the plan to give the remote island a fresh coat of paint and turn into an accessible tourism gem may cost the taxpayer much more than it was anticipated.